Your favorite singers, SZA, Ariana Grande, and Casey Musgraves are all singing about it. Your cut-off millennial friends are all complaining about how their lives are falling into shambles. And every pop astrologer on TikTok is warning you about how Saturn is about to come in and kick your ass as punishment for all of your sins. It's the Saturn return, it's everywhere, and it's happening right now. I'm excited for my Saturn return, and you should be too. But before we begin, my name is 𝕗𝕠𝕝𝕚𝕝𝕚𝕜. I am a poet and a writer. I'm typically writing on Substack and posting my content on Instagram and now here on YouTube. In this video, I am going to discuss the infamous Saturn return as somebody who is about to enter their first Saturn return. In this video, I will be talking about what exactly is a Saturn return, what is its significance, how it moves, the bad reputation that it gets in pop astrology, and how we can actually use this transit as a means of growth, empowerment, maturity, and healing, where it can be a time where we grow into ourselves and overcome our shortcomings and actually be supported by cosmic transitions and cosmic bodies to support our evolution and to achieve our goals. In this video, I will also be collaborating with my friend Mitch, who is a professional astrologer, and we'll be discussing what this Saturn transit into Aries, how it's going to be affecting you based off of what house Saturn will be transiting in your chart. So grab a cozy little drink and settle into this video. And I hope by the end of this video, you'll actually be feeling a lot more encouraged about this sacred rite of passage that is the Saturn return. And please let me know if you like this video by liking, leaving a comment down below, sharing it with a friend who may be feeling anxious about their Saturn return, and subscribing to my channel. So first and foremost, why am I making this video when, one, I'm not an astrologer myself, and I've also never been through a Saturn return? What credibility do I possibly have? Well, first and foremost, I actually didn't get the grant money for another project that I wanted to work on, so I'm going to be working on this project right now. And secondly, I got a microphone and I paid a lot of money for it, so I'm going to make my voice heard, okay? And third, I feel like I have just a different perspective on what a Saturn return means for me, and I think that it just differs from what the popular assumption is, and I think that it could be of incredible benefit to others. I've been talking about this with my friends for the past year or so, and it's always left them with a sense of encouragement, and I just want to create this video and hopefully leave you with a sense of encouragement as well. I have been wanting to make this video ever since Saturn transited into Aries last May, in late May, and that's officially when my Saturn return began. That was shortly after I turned 28 and had crash landed back in the United States after backpacking around the world. And now that Saturn is going direct after spending some time back in Pisces retrograde, and I think it's time to make this video. So last year, when Saturn actually ended up transiting into Aries and making that transit into Aries, I actually kind of made it into a ritual for myself, because I just had this notion and this sense of I'm about to enter into a miraculous time of my life of immense growth and transformation. And I understood the severity of this change and this responsibility that I was going to be given. So I decided to just kind of make this little ritual where I respectfully approach the archetype or the energy of Saturn. I just asking it is like, what is the intention that you specifically have for me during this period of my time? Because everyone's Saturn return is so different. But I wanted to know, like, what are the lessons? How do you want me to grow? What are you trying to teach me? Who am I supposed to become? And how are you going to support me in this becoming? I received my personal answer, and I could kind of intuit that this cycle would in fact be challenging. I could tell that it was very, very heavy, but that ultimately I just felt this sense of support by Saturn that was like so differing than all the opinions that I had heard previously regarding Saturn, specifically online. And the support that it was giving me was almost like a molding into the person that I am meant to become. And it was so different, as I said, from what I had been hearing online, specifically from pop astrologers who just push this narrative, that this like fearful narrative that's like,
oh, Saturn is just unreconcilable challenge after unreconcilable challenge, and you will be punished for all of your bad behavior. And it's seemingly for no reason at all.
And it's not that I disagree that this transit won't be a challenge, but I just felt like that narrative was so unhelpful because it didn't actually leave anybody with any guidance. And it took away from the reality that this time in our lives, whether it's your first, second, or third, is a time of immense growth and can lead to some of the most rewarding things in your life. And it just also kind of didn't sit well with me, specifically because fear is a very convincing tactic. And it seemed like all what these, I'm not trying to like speak badly about anybody, but it seemed like all of that these astrologers were doing was just invoking fear into people for likes and interactions and comments. And it just felt like there was a lack of integrity with the knowledge that they were given, a lack of integrity with how astrology, which is a spiritual system and practice and philosophy, which ultimately is trying to map the soul's journey towards enlightenment. It just seems like that narrative didn't honor the sacredness of astrology. Okay, again, we're doing this again because it keeps going out. How about this ASMR? So, what is a Saturn return? I wrote this. In short, the Saturn return is the period of time in one's life where Saturn arrives at the placement in your natal chart it was at when you were first born. This is known as your Saturn placement. A natal chart refers to the map of the sky featuring the planetary alignment at the moment that you came into this world. So the time that you were born. This chart and the planetary placements at the time of birth is said to influence a person's psyche, patterns, disposition, and area of the life, symbolized by the 12 houses. Essentially, it goes back into the same spot that it was when you were born. And Saturn is known to be this archetype that is father, grandfather, patriarchal. The Saturn energy is very serious. It's mature. It asks us for discipline and structure. Its intention is to create stable structure in our life, a long-lasting legacy. It asks us about the entirety of our life, making us look at like the purpose of our life. Why are we here and what are we meant to achieve? And also acknowledge that time is passing, we are getting older, and we must take responsibility and do something with our lives. A Saturn transit takes about 2 to 3 years, moving through each sign and each house. And the reason why it takes so long is because Saturn will enter into a sign for about like 6 months and then retrograde back into the sign that it was in previous, and then come back into the sign that it first went into and stay there for about 3 years. So for example, Saturn entered Aries last May, and then I think it shifted back in September. It was been in Pisces for all this time, and then now next week on February 13th, it's going to go back direct into Aries, where it will stay for about 2-ish years before it moves on to Taurus, then shifts back into Aries for a little bit, and then back into Taurus, and we're through with it. I am a natal Aries Saturn placement, so I'm experiencing my first Saturn return. So it takes about 27 to 30 years for Saturn to return back into the place, its original placement in your chart. This is when we are first asked to grow up. It is a gift, it is a rite of passage, and it is sacred to our becoming. During this season of life, typically when you turn around 27, 28, you will start to feel the weight of responsibility within your life. And this is often when people have major career shifts. They decide to go back to school and pursue their master's or their PhD. This is when they start to get married, maybe even divorce. When a lot of people start to have children, own homes, just like the really big weights of life. In other instances, this may be when people move states, move countries, and a lot of healing takes place, a lot of maturing. Perhaps this is a big time where a lot of people realize like, oh, I really got to get sober. Like this partying thing is not just a partying thing that I'm doing in my 20s. I sincerely need to start healing and finding new ways to cope. And, people start to notice that the body is being weighed down by time. We're getting older. We even notice that our parents are getting older. They got wrinkles on their face. Our siblings are getting older. Time is moving. Or maybe people just begin to ask themselves, all together, like, who the hell am I and what am I meant to do? And this is a really great time of transformation. That's like one of the key archetypes of this time, transformation, releasing old habits, releasing old patterns, old attachments to things that kept you identified with your former self, to the person that you had to be in order to survive. You really have to look at these habits and realize that like, I cannot continue to go on with these habits if I want to get to the next period of my life, because ultimately habits keep you stuck in these loops, and these loops aren't going to make you go forward if you're trying to move forward. So in a lot of ways, that can be really, really helpful, especially if you are kind of tired of your shit. And it's my belief that Saturn gives you the discipline to finally free yourself from that. So Saturn's big bad reputation. Saturn's reputation precedes him. Before he has even arrived, we've already begun to panic. So the reputation with Saturn online, particularly with pop astrologers, is that it should be something that you absolutely dread. But I think that this perspective is not helpful. It just causes widespread panic and leaves us with nothing but a dysregulated nervous system. There's no advice, there's no guidance, there's no even parting words of wisdom. It's kind of just like they're saying,
I'm here, I'm having this experience with you guys.
You're not having with us.
I'm gonna be here forever.
You want to get your ass beat, you get your ass beat. You can stay, get your ass beat.
But that's...
You can stay, get your ass beat.
Okay.
You can stay, get your ass beat.
All right.
You want some pretzels, dude? You want some pretzels?
Popcorn.
Some pretzels?
Popcorn.
I got no power. I got pretzels.
Got it.
And if astrology is meant to be a system of philosophical practice to evolve spiritually, then these ideas don't serve anyone. This is the kind of thing that kind of makes me question the credibility of these narratives, because, and I want to say this in a way that doesn't spiritually bypass suffering, but all of life is a challenge. Life is always challenging. Life is always going to be challenging. You've been through seasons of immense grief, immense suffering throughout the entirety of your life. In one form or another, at one capacity and level or another, you have already been through times of hardship. And beyond the Saturn return, you will continue to go through seasons of immense loss and grief and hardship. That is a truth and a reality of life. And another truth and reality of life is that you can overcome. You have the capacity, you have the strength and the ability to overcome. We aren't incapable of facing challenges. Just think back to a time in your life where you thought, oh my gosh, I don't know how I'm going to overcome this. This is so challenging. And then years and years later, you don't even think about it. And maybe you do. Again, I don't want to spiritually bypass anything. And also think about all the millions of people who have had the privilege to go through their Saturn return and survived. They continue to live. We will get through this. We will continue to live. And then the other thing that these astrologists kind of fail to even mention and give any insight, and I can understand why this would leave a lot of fear to people who aren't really super into astrology, is that Saturn is always transiting one of your houses. Saturn is always influencing an area of your life. So say Saturn started in your 12th house when you were born, and then it moved into your first house, and then it moved into your second, and so on until it came all the way around. As it was going through all of this chart, it interacted with every aspect and area of your life, and interacted with all the other planets that happen to be in that house at the same time, whether that be natally, whether that just be at that time period. So for example, my natal Saturn particularly is in the 9th house, but several years ago, I had Saturn transit my 7th house of partnerships and relationships, and that is the time where I ended up getting my first like real heartbreak and ending a relationship with my first love. And it was so immensely painful. And that period of my time was also marked by so much death around me, and loss when it came to family members and the people that I loved. That experience led me to reanalyze my perceptions on relationships and love, and to look at it in a very mature way. After that, I no longer had the capacity to look at relationships in a way that felt like a child looks at relationships, like, oh, true love this, and love can overcome anything, and someone will come and rescue me. From then on, I had to look at relationships in a very mature way. I had to have like standards for the people that I dated. It was so nice because then I could start clocking men who were like coming up to me and didn't have good intentions, weren't serious, and it didn't turn me on the way that secure men started to. When I could see that a man was like breadcrumbing me or trying to play games, it immediately turned me off. I got the ick, and beyond that, I actually started to feel viscerally unsafe in my body. From then on, I had to look at relationships as, what do you have to offer me? Are you serious about me? Because from that experience of heartbreak, I saw the immense value of my heart, and I was not willing to just give it to anybody. And that was the gift of the challenge and the immense grief that I overcame. And from that experience that was so challenging for me, it actually led me to, one, writing a book about it, publishing my first little chapbook of poetry, EURYDICE, and it led me to such a wonderful partnership with a very wonderful man that embodies the archetype and the qualities of Saturn. That all of this to say is that with the challenges of Saturn, it will bring immense gifts through embodying the wisdom from the lessons that you've learned. I have actually been looking forward to my Saturn return for many years now, but when I turned 27, that's when I started to feel the weight of Saturn coming in. Like, I just knew that it was coming in, and I had to like look around at my life and just evaluate where my path was going, and realize that I had to make some serious decisions on who I wanted to be, what I wanted to do, and to get very serious about making things happen for myself, and about healing and growing up and maturing, especially if I wanted to become the person that was capable of handling those responsibilities of my dreams. And look at where things in my life weren't going to help me progress into those desires of mine. And this is when I remembered that the Saturn return is actually an opportunity. It's a type of benefit for me. Like, if Saturn, listen, if Saturn is coming into our life to give us responsibility, to give us maturity, to give us discipline, what a gift. That means that I could use that to my advantage to achieve my dreams, to build structure in my life, to work towards creating something sound for myself and to give to the world. Is it still recording? It's still recording. Okay. So the archetype of Saturn is the father who loves through structure, through discipline, through rituals, through responsibility, accountability, showing up. It kind of reminds me of like that thing with dads who are like,
are you paying off your credit card? Are you paying your student loans back? When are you going to get a real job? Do you have enough money in your savings, mija?
things like that. Like, Saturn wants you to be well. Like, beyond all of like this fear mongering, like, Saturn wants you to be well. Saturn wants you to be safe. I also kind of been sitting with Saturn as well and seeing it like a coach that sees you, the athlete, and says, I want you to win. And in order for you to win, I need you to practice. I need you to show up to the field, to the court, to the gym every single day so you can get those gains. And you know what? I see that you have the potential to win. And that's what I want for you. So that's why I'm going to put this pressure on you. And that's why I'm going to assist in your growth, because I know you can. So Saturn is here to help you. Saturn is here to guide you, despite what online propaganda says. And Saturn is a season that gives you opportunity to overcome. And I don't want to spiritually bypass on this channel, especially when the world is in such a massive crisis. At least in my life, the times of immense pressure these are the times in my life where I have learned humility and compassion and have given grace and returned to grace and have received the gifts of forgiving. And it is through those immense losses and hardships that ultimately humble you, where symbolically the mountain is formed, which is stability, where the diamond is formed, which is value. It is the fire where the spirit is formed. To me, it seems like this can be such a rewarding time of stepping into the adult version that you really needed for yourself. It's a time of leadership, and it can be a time of immense empowerment. I've known so many people who have gone through their Saturn return who are like, I really could care less what anyone thinks about me and what anyone's opinion is of what I do with my life. Like, I'm going full force after what I know that I can achieve and what I want to do. They step into their power when they have no other choice but to. And I came to this realization that I get to grow up and become a more confident and brave and empowered version of myself. What a gift. Why wouldn't I want that? So if you're still feeling a little nervous about your Saturn return, think about all the things and all the gifts that you can get from what it is that you desire, and work with this energy to try to achieve them, because you are so worthy of your gifts and Saturn knows that. But you have to be able to become the person who is able to hold that. So how will the Saturn return be affecting you based off of your house placement? And for this, I have brought on and collaborated with my friend Mitch, who is a professional astrologer who I have actually worked with many times in regards to some of my most challenging transits, and they have offered me such incredible relief. And he will be better able to explain how it will affect you.
Hi everyone, so excited to be here joining Jackie talking about Saturn, what all the celebs have been talking about, just like she stated. I am Mitch. I am an astrologer, a tarot reader. I practice Reiki, energy work, and here is my 2 cents on Saturn. First of all, let's talk about what Saturn is. This planet of responsibility, this planet of slow change, this planet of boundaries, this planet of karma. That's a big theme regarding Saturn. And right now, Saturn is currently going from Pisces, which is a water sign, a mutable sign, very easygoing, to Aries, which is a cardinal sign, a fire sign. It's very assertive. So we take this sign that's a little bit more lax, which Pisces and Saturn is a little bit more lax. It's not as ready to take on the challenges. It's more of like, let me reflect on the things that I need to address. Not saying that that's how it impacts the chart, but that's just the overall vibe. Then we move into Aries, where Saturn is ready to take on the challenges that have been thought about, right? But Saturn and Aries actually don't mesh well together. It's called the fall. And the reason is because Saturn, this planet of all of these things that are slow, that need time to change. And then there's Aries, which is this sign that wants results now. Some good things about this is that any projects or any changes that need to be made to one's life are going to be started now. Because Aries is very ready to start these projects, very ready to start this change, very ready to start the growth. However, on the flip side, there's going to be burnout. There's going to be losing focus, losing track of the goals, because Aries will start quick and then lose motivation really quickly because they're impatient, because they want results now. So that's why when Saturn in Aries is here, it's important to, yes, start things, but also still have that plan in place and also expect that things are not going to go perfectly, because they will not when these two come together. I'm going to talk a little bit about Saturn in each house, transiting each house, and how that impacts you. I'm also going to be mentioning the rising signs for each to make this easy. The chart is split into 12 houses. Each house talks about a different area of your life. I'm going to start with the first house. People who are going to be experiencing a transit through the first house are people with an Aries rise. When Saturn transits the first house, there's two major things that happen. One is this reevaluation of the identity, reevaluation of the self, and making changes so that you can feel more confident and feel better about yourself. The second thing that happens because of this is your vitality, your energy, your buoyancy kind of dims a little bit. Expect that. Self-reflection, but also feeling like the self-reflection is taking up a lot of space. The second house, this is going to be people who have a Pisces rise. Second house is about money, finances, security. So when there's Saturn transiting this house, think about it like, all right, I'm done thinking about myself. Now I need to think about making money, being secure in myself, being secure in my body, being secure in my space. And that's what the second house brings with Saturn. Slow projects, getting rid of debts, things like that, maybe buying something big, moving as a potential. That's more of like fourth house energy, but there's that potential there. Then we shift into the third house. This is going to be people with an Aquarius rising. This is the house of like day-to-day, like your conversations, communications. It's also like logistic. When Saturn transits this part of the chart, it's not that intense. It's more of like, oh, here's all of the things that I've been like neglecting. Now it's time to like start working through them. I'm talking about like logistical stuff, paying those bills, texting these people, sending those letters, whatever. Then we move to the fourth house. This is going to be for Capricorn rise. The fourth house is about the home, security, emotions. When Saturn transits this part of the chart, this is a significant house. This is an angular house. That's the first, the fourth, the seventh, and the 10th. These ones get hit probably the hardest, not in a bad way. When Saturn moves through this part of your chart, it is reestablishing the home. Like, what does your home look like and how can you make it fit better? On top of that, it's like, how is your emotional processing? What's working, what isn't, what needs to change, what do you need to let go of? Then we shift back into another personal house. When Saturn transits the fifth house, this will be people who are Sagittarius rising. When Saturn transits the fifth house, it's very much focused on yourself again, just like the first. It's just a little bit different. It's more of like, okay, I feel like I need to start a project. I feel like I need to start a hobby. I feel like I need to start, exploring things that make me feel good in my expression, acting, dancing, all kinds of art, things like that. Very good for this transit. But again, there's like this vitality loss a little bit, this buoyancy loss, because you're figuring yourself out. Moving into the sixth house, this is the house of health. This is the house of routines, work, how you show up to work. It's not like career ambitions, that's the 10th, but it's like how you show up as an individual. And this will be for people who have a Scorpio rise. When Saturn transits this part, it is like reestablishing routines, reestablishing exercise. That's like a big thing that happens here, and also really important because health issues can arise, but it's honestly not a dictator of that. It's just something that can happen. And making changes to make sure that you're setting yourself up, setting your body up for success, setting yourself up as a worker for success. Shifting into the 7th, this is going to be people with a Libra rising. This is the house of relationships, business partnerships, marriage. There's a lot of talk about how when Saturn transits this part of the chart, there's like relationships ending, divorce. Don't believe it. That stuff is not that true. Honestly, more divorces happen when Jupiter, which is like, you know, fun, huge, transits this than when Saturn does. Because Saturn makes people who have this transit take their relationships way more seriously. So this is a time where one-on-one relationships, specifically romantic partnerships or business partners, whatever, become very important and very serious. And it's like time to step up, right? And the reason why people think that it's a time where there could be separation is because if people aren't ready to step up, that's when a separation will occur. Moving into the 8th house, which is going to be people with a Virgo rise. This is kind of like the 4th house. There's this emotional clearing, but it's very much more related to like deep psychological stuff that needs to be cleared out. It's also related to like sexual, emotional things that are coming up, specifically like intimacy with partners. So we're talking about like structure and relationships with the 7th, but now in the 8th, it's like more intimacy and how we need to reestablish ourselves in intimate relationships, or we need to pull ourselves out of them. And that's what Saturn is going to show us. Also, other people's resources and traumas that come into play, how whatever we're holding on to is impacting us and how we can let it go. Moving into the 9th house, this is like taking all of the stuff that we've been learning and then applying it to a new philosophy, a new idea, maybe writing a book, discovering a new religion, traveling, that kind of thing, to like put some of the stuff that you've been thinking about into action. That's what the 9th house is all about, these ideals. This is going to be for people with a Leo rise. This is another one, just like the 5th and the 1st, that's like establishing stuff for the self, but it's just on a, you know, more mind expanding way. The 10th house, angular, this is for people who have a Cancer rise, career, ambitions. How are you doing in your career? What are you ambitious about? What are your goals? What's working, what's not? It's that simple. It's like reassessing your career, reassessing all of these things, and working towards actually finding the thing that works for you. It could be like a huge career switch moment. It could also be like you're jumping from job to job and you're like trying to figure out what works and what doesn't. It could also be like you're in something that you're really happy and you're just reinforcing that. Moving into the 11th, this is a little bit of a foggy house in astrology. Like there's like a lot of, you know, different words that get thrown around. But what I'll say with Saturn transiting this, and this is going to be for people who have a Gemini rise, people who have Saturn transiting the 11th, this is like, how are you showing up in your communities and how are you putting a foot down in your communities and making an impact? When Saturn moves into the 12th, which is the final one, this is the, you know, very last moment. This one, you don't really feel it that much. This is for Taurus rises, by the way. This one, you don't really feel it that much because it's like a culmination of all of this work that you've done. It's gone through the whole cycle, 1st to the 12th, and now it's like you're sitting with that, you're analyzing that, and you're figuring out what's left to get rid of and what's left to move forward. This one's very internal. Typically, when this happens, there needs to be a lot of internal rest and reflection to actually find the stuff that Saturn's trying to pull out. My 2 cents on the Saturn return, which is when Saturn meets up with your Saturn and they like form a conjunction is what it's called. There's so much negative talk about this, but to like kind of start this off, I just want to read a little excerpt from this book. It's a light read, Astrology, Karma, and Transformation by Stephen Arroyo. And I think he puts it perfect. First of all, he calls Saturn the Lord of Karma. And then he says, and since the popular conception of karma is that all karma is negative and troublesome, Saturn's testing is viewed by many as identical with the action of karma. This is, of course, is a gross oversimplification as well as a misinterpretation of what karma really is. It may be more accurate to say that Saturn in the natal chart, especially according to its house positions, conjunction, square, opposition, shows where our difficult karma comes into its most specific focus. These challenging aspects of Saturn show crystallized habit patterns of thought and action, which inhibit the flow of our creative energy. Really, what's being said here is that Saturn will show us where we're inhibited and how we need to work with our energy. Honestly, when Saturn return comes, this is usually a time where people are feeling a reclamation of their energy, because they've done all of this work to clear out a lot of stuff that they no longer need. And now they're fine not engaging as much with so many things, not engaging with as much with things that are more emotional or can cause a little bit of turmoil, or like setting healthy boundaries. And that's how Saturn return should be viewed, as something that will help a person actualize who they are, what they think about themselves even more, right? That's my wisdom on all of this information. Thank you so much for listening. And I am EsottericMitch on Instagram. If you want to reach out for a reading of any kind, feel free. And thank you so much.
So,
The sun.
in the year leading up to my Saturn return, I was talking to my partner who has already been through their Saturn return, and they asked me, why are you so afraid? Like, this is a period of your time where you can step into your power and just let that be some credibility from the other side. But if you need more credibility, I actually went on Instagram and asked people if they've been through their Saturn return to let me know how it went. And I had a few people respond, but this one in particular really resonated with me, so I will be reading it. And this is what they said, based on someone who just recently went through a Saturn return in Pisces. I feel it has made me grow by learning to face anything life has for me. I really learned how to regulate my body, feel my emotions, and let go of different trauma. I was taught how important it is to be grounded in a stable living environment and a stable, healthy community, to accept wherever I am in life as a part of God's plan, to become responsible for everything in my life, whether someone else was involved or not, to fully embody nonviolent communication and become fully aware of my words and energy behind them, confidence in supporting myself and also allowing others to support me, as it was difficult in the past to accept help and support, finally seeing the beauty in myself and what I have to offer to the world. I think the challenges I faced were absolutely the driving force in learning all of these lessons, and I know there have been more. So much growth. It was not easy. I can look back at these past years and know it has been the most transformational time in my life so far. Learning to let go of the past, learning who I am without any substances, learning healthy brotherhood, so much goodness. So before my little mic drop moment, I just want to congratulate you on one, either coming out of your Saturn return, or the fact that you're about to experience such a potently transformational time of your life. I wish you nothing but growth. I hope that you learn to hold yourself with such radical compassion through it all. I hope that you allow yourself help and to lean on others. I really want to see you step into your power to go after the things that you want without any fear, with confidence. And that is all that I have for you today. And again, my name is Jacqueline, and I am excited for my Saturn return, and you should be too.